What would you sacrifice to save a stranger? In the dim glow of a late-night shift, Clara Evans adjusted her teal scrubs, the fabric worn thin from endless hours in the ER. She was 28, a nurse with eyes that held both compassion and exhaustion. Her life was a blur of beeping monitors, rushed footsteps, and patients who sometimes slipped away despite her best efforts. Tonight, though, was different. Tonight, she was summoned to a courtroom, still in her scrubs, straight from a 12-hour shift. The judge's gavel awaited, and Clara had no idea why. The courtroom buzzed with tension. Clara stood before Judge Harold Grayson, a man known for his sharp tongue and rigid demeanor. His eyes narrowed at her attire. "Miss Evans," he sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. "Do you think this is a hospital? You stand before this court in pajamas?" A ripple of laughter spread through the room. Clara's cheeks burned, but she stood straighter, her hands clasped tightly. She wasn't here by choice. She'd been subpoenaed as a witness in a case she barely understood, a hit-and-run involving a patient she'd treated. The prosecutor, a wiry man with a clipped tone, began questioning her. "Ms. Evans, you treated Mr. Daniel Carter on the night of June 12th, correct?" Clara nodded, recalling the man who'd been rushed in, bloodied and broken, after a car struck him and sped off. She'd stabilized him, held his hand as he whispered about his kids, and prayed he'd pull through. He did. But now, the driver, a wealthy businessman named Victor Lang, sat smugly at the defense table, his lawyers spinning a tale of mistaken identity. Judge Grayson leaned forward, his gaze piercing. "Ms. Evans, your report claims you saw the vehicle. A black SUV, yes? You were outside the hospital?" Clara nodded again, her voice steady. "Yes, Your Honor. I was on a break, smoking in the alley. I saw it speed past after the crash." The judge scoffed. "Smoking? In scrubs? How professional." More chuckles echoed. Clara's jaw tightened, but she held her tongue. She wasn't here to defend her choices, she was here for the truth. Then came the twist. A woman slipped into the courtroom, unnoticed by most. She was older, with graying hair and a worn coat, clutching a small photograph. Clara's eyes flicked toward her, a flicker of recognition sparking. The woman was Mrs. Carter, Daniel's mother, who'd sat by his bedside for weeks. She wasn't on the witness list. Why was she here? The prosecutor, unaware of her presence, pressed on, asking Clara to confirm the SUV's license plate. Clara hesitated. She'd seen the plate, but only for a moment. Doubt crept in. Had she been mistaken? Victor's lawyer pounced. "Your Honor, this nurse is unreliable. Exhausted, distracted, smoking on duty. How can we trust her memory?" The judge smirked, clearly agreeing. Clara felt the room shrink, the weight of their judgment pressing down. But then Mrs. Carter stood, her voice trembling but clear. "Your Honor, may I speak?" The courtroom froze. Judge Grayson, caught off guard, nodded reluctantly. Mrs. Carter held up the photograph, a faded image of a young boy in a hospital bed, tubes snaking from his arms. "This was my Daniel, years ago," she said. "Clara saved him then, too. She worked 18 hours straight when he had leukemia. She never left his side." The room grew quieter. Clara's throat tightened, memories flooding back. She hadn't recognized Daniel at first. The accident had changed his face, but now it clicked. Mrs. Carter turned to the judge. "You mock her scrubs, but those scrubs saved my son twice. She saw that car. She's the only one who cared enough to notice." The courtroom was silent, the air heavy. Clara, voice barely above a whisper, spoke 6 words that shattered the stillness. "I'd know that car anywhere, Judge." The words hung there, raw and unyielding. Judge Grayson's smirk vanished. The prosecutor's jaw dropped. Even Victor's smug facade cracked. Clara's certainty, born of sleepless nights and a heart that refused to quit, cut through the room like a blade. Mrs. Carter's testimony had shifted everything, reminding them all that Clara wasn't just a nurse in scrubs, she was a lifeline. The trial continued, but the tone had changed. The judge's sharp remarks softened. The jury leaned forward, listening intently as Clara recounted every detail she could muster. Victor's lawyer scrambled, but the damage was done. Clara's words, backed by Mrs. Carter's quiet courage, had turned the tide. When the verdict came, a guilty courtroom exhaled as one. Clara stepped out into the night, her scrubs still stained with the day's work. She lit a cigarette, the ember glowing in the dark. She wasn't perfect, but she was real. And in that courtroom, her truth had been enough. Yindi,